evening, everyone, and welcome to Roy's Tie-Dye Sci-Fi Corner. This is episode number 216. The discussion is centered around 2010, the year we make contact. And with me tonight to discuss this classic, celebrating its 40th anniversary this coming December, is my friend, my co-host, Ross Amico. Ross, welcome.
Happy New Year, Roy.
Happy New Year, Ross. How are you?
Doing great. How are you?
A dramatic pause begins.
Yeah.
I'm doing okay, Ross. All things considered. You know what? It's a new year, fresh start. It's the new beginning. 2024 is here and gonna hit it head on with a lot of momentum, a lot of force. Yes, the force. And a lot of positive energy. So there we go. So I am doing wonderful, at least for the next 10 hours that we discuss this film.
You forgot to mention a whole lot of monoliths.
And a whole lot of monoliths.
May your 2024 be full of monoliths.
Hey, and with that said, I want to welcome our viewers that are actually joining us out there. I see Ken Hutchins is in the house. Welcome, Ken. Good to see you out there. Dennis Chevalier is joining us from Canada. Welcome, Dennis. Chris is actually joining us. Chris, welcome. He's saying a brilliant, outstanding, excellent, and very successful sequel to the greatest science fiction film ever made. Nicely said, Chris. Welcome. I see Jeff Rubel is joining us as well. He's joining us from out west. Welcome. And Brennan is in the house. Welcome, Brennan. And Randy is also joining us from Wisconsin. Welcome, Randy. Great to see you out there. Jerry Seward is out there also. And Ken's saying, don't look a day over episode over 169.
Thanks, Ken.
The Hague is also in the house. He's saying, what's going to happen here? Something wonderful. And Lou is in the house. Lou, welcome, Lou.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Yes. Yeah, we're still going with that. And May, welcome, May. Great to see you there as well, too. Sue's joining us. She's saying, hey, Roy, I'm a huge fan of Roy Scheider and John Lithgow in the movie 2010. Yes, excellent actors, well represented. Wait, 40th anniversary. I thought 2010 was 14 years ago. Don't remind us, Randy.
He's messing with the timeline again. Part of
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
No, so
there's plenty of opportunity for Abbott and Costello type misunderstandings.
Who's on first? What's on second?
Exactly.
Third base. Yeah, you know, we were trying to come up with the film to discuss in regards to going into 2024. Didn't want to do something super negative. Didn't want to do something that was too thought-provoking. If we did, we would have we would have revisited 2001: A Space Odyssey. We actually kicked off the one year we did Superman. We discussed that for the new year. We also have done The Time Machine, which is a perfect New Year's Day type of film, or the kickoff. But anyway, with this film, we thought, you know what, this seemed like it would be pretty good. I had not seen this movie probably in about 20 years, and prior to that, I saw it in 1984 at the Easton Eric Movie Theater back in the day. So I kind of had forgotten about this film, and let me just say I was pleasantly reminded of how great of a movie this is and how enjoyable of a movie this is. Totally different from 2001: A Space Odyssey, but you know what? That's the charm of it. So anyway, what do you say, Ross? When was the last time you saw this film?
I saw it once in the movies, and that was it. I saw it in 1984, and I saw it on a really wonderful big screen in Philly, and there was a Sam Eric down there, which is sadly no more. You know, it was something else before the Sam Eric, a historic building. Kenneth Hutchins will know what it is, I'm sure, but they tore it down. It was one of the last of the movie palaces in the area. And I mean, we still have the State Theater in Easton, but you know, the Boyd is gone in Bethlehem. But this place was a great place to see movies. If you didn't look around to see what was going on in the audience. And, you know, it's like, yeah, I look back now yeah, I mean, at the time, I felt like, well, that was it was a night at the movies. It was reasonably satisfying. And what's next? You know what I mean? It's like, oh, like I'll go see Dune or Starman. You know what I mean? We had so much out at
Right.
that time, but now it's just like, wow, how good do we have it? Like where even the mediocre films were like really well done, well done especially with the special effects. I mean, they really had it down by 1984. It'll never match the impact. It would never match the impact of 2001 because they basically built that from the ground up.
Right.
The technicians with the effects and everything in '68. But and also, it's one of those things where the further away we get, the closer the time shrinks between 2001 and 2010. It's like, why are they doing a sequel to 2001 now? It's a million years ago. And you look now and it's like, oh, it wasn't that long ago.
It really wasn't, which is crazy.
Yeah.
No, those are such valid points, Ross. It's so true.
I'm so profound.
No, no, you nailed it. I see a few. I'm going to come back to that. I see a few other people have joined us. Sherry's down there. Hey, hon, how you doing? She is saying Happy New Year to us.
Happy New Year, Sherry.
Happy New Year. And Deborah is joining us. She's saying, hey, the animals laugh. Deborah.
Oh, boy. Yeah, talk about nailing it.
Hey, Gwen. Gwen is joining us. Welcome. Saying, hey, guys, I hope you both are doing well. Happy New Year. Happy New Year to you too, Gwen. And Brennan is saying, not Bob Balaban.
What about not Bob Balaban?
And Chris is saying, I saw 2010 in the cinemas when it debuted on December 7th of 84. Love the Kentucky reference that was made by Haywood Floyd, the late Roy Scheider, when offering Tanya Kerbuck, Helen Miren, some Kentucky bourbon. Yes, that was a nice moment between them. I agree, Chris. And Dennis said, I read the book before I saw the movie. And Ken is saying it was the Boyd Theater.
And that was also a Boyd Theater. Right. Yeah, the historic Boyd Theater in Philadelphia. Yeah. The front facade is there. They were going to do some kind of condo thing, but they were supposed to preserve the lobby and I think the big theater, but it was some kind of shady deal. I mean, I guess I can't, accuse anybody on the internet like this because they'll come after me, but something shady happened there. And they kind of like tore it down in the night. Yeah.
I like what Brennan wrote. I walked out of Dune and went to see 2010 next door. 30 years later, I think I can finally confess to that. Great way to face your demons there, Brennan. And we salute you.
I sat through both.
No, and the interesting thing is about 2001, if I remember correctly, I think they actually started filming that in 65. It was released in 68. And so this was probably produced, or the production with this was in 83 into 84, if I'm not mistaken, in regards to this movie. Can
you believe just how much, talk about like the evolution, like in 2001, you go from, what is it, Moon Watcher or whatever to the Star Child or what have you. I mean, that's the evolution of the filmmaking, of the effects and everything from 68 to 84. We're on the other side of the Star Wars and ILM, revolution at that point.
And the amazing thing about that, Ross, is it's really not that big of a gap. It seemed like such a. I mean, we've talked about this many times on here, but again, when you think in terms of, I'll say in regards to the release date, 68 to 84. So that's what, 16 years. I mean, then it seemed like, oh my God, 16 years ago. That's like a lifetime.
Just let it rest. Yeah.
You think 16 years ago now, it's like, it's nothing. That was, it was like right around the corner.
And the effects were great. It's like
they were.
Why, I don't know. I don't know about this whole CGI thing. I would have been perfectly fine if we had just stayed in 1984. Give me my rotary phone back.
Them's are fighting words, Ross.
But
you can't have my iPhone. You can't have my iPhone. You can't take it away.
Yeah. Well, I have to hand it to Peter Hyams. He managed to make a sequel that didn't kind of, I'm not one of those guys where if they make a horrible sequel, it ruins the original. but you don't want that kind of like lurking around the back of your head when you're watching 2001 that they made an awful sequel. To tell you the truth, I never even think about the sequel when I watch 2001. But you know, this is not a bad movie. They acquitted themselves well, and I think it's, you know, going back and watching it, I think it's about 3/4 of an underrated movie.
Okay, yeah.
and you know, if you want to get into you know why I say that, we can do that now or later. But you know, I think they did a pretty good job for a lot of it, even though Hyams is not Kubrick. You know, he doesn't attempt to emulate his style, but there's a whole different vibe to it.
Oh, it's a totally different approach.
Yeah.
I mean, in regards to 2001, I mean, it is. I mean, and it was funny because we were talking about this, and I needed to be reminded. You know, it's been, you know, the last few weeks have been kind of, you know, stressful to say the least. So I really wasn't thinking in terms of this, and you kind of like were, you know, busting my chops when I was saying about, you know, this film about, you know, about it being deep. It's not. It's deep on a certain level, but nowhere near on the level of 2001. I mean, they are. But you know what? I'm glad they're totally different movies, because that's the charm of this movie. That's what makes this movie successful. It's if it had been like a copy of 2001, which I know he did. I shouldn't say no, but from what I've read, I mean, that wasn't the direction he wanted to go with, obviously. I mean, with what we see. And he was successful in that. I mean, it holds its own, and that's what you want. I mean, if you want to see 2001 or a remake of 2001, go see 2001 again. You know what I mean? You can watch 2001 like 100 times, and each time you watch it, you'll walk away with something different because it's so abstract. I mean, anybody that says that you're wrong about what you think about it, I mean, who are they to say that? You know what I mean? It's just there's so many possibilities with that film, and it's an artistic dream or nightmare, depending upon what state of mind you are when you're watching it.
Yeah,
in my opinion, I'll preface it with that.
I couldn't watch 2001 100 times because I'd run out of acid after about the 5th viewing. But then I'll just flash back. But yeah, 2010. It was deep on a very superficial level. Let's put it that way. Maybe 2001, or what I say, 2010. 2010 was deep on a superficial level. Maybe 2001 was superficial on a very deep level.
Yeah, exactly.
See, I did some of that acid.
Yeah, you did. You definitely did. What came first, Ross, the chicken or the egg? Chris is saying Peter Hyams did an excellent directing, producing, writing, and shooting of the film. Yes, he
Well,
did.
It's an impossible task, and he acquitted himself very well. I mean, this is my opinion. You know what I mean? It's like,
Sure.
I'm dialing it down a little. Like, you know, I didn't like it as much as that.
Sure.
I'm not saying I did. I shouldn't say that. I did like it, but you know, an attempt at being critically objective, which of course nobody is. I would say that it, you know, I don't rate it as high as that, rate it as high as that, but it's not an embarrassment, and it's better than you know, a good deal of the movies being made now. So, but who cares what I think?
We do, Ross. We all do.
I gotta take a drink.
The Hague said it was the 80s. They knew it wouldn't sell if the film was like 2001. No, that's fair. Yeah, hey, Warren. Well, Warren is joining us and saying, "Hey, fellas, dialing in from work here, random. But the first time I went to New Orleans, I was amazed and said to myself, my God, it's full of bars." Oh my God.
There you go. Yeah. The thing is that there are. I didn't get a chance. I would have liked to have had like another hour to kind of like fill myself in on some of the background, but there are signs in this film that they tried to do all they could to connect with a mass audience, or for people that weren't like 2001, you know, what would you call them? Like
aficionados,
like monolith heads, whatever you call them. You know, because they had they spell out in the prologue everything that went on in the first movie. Then you have the Blade Runner-esque voiceovers by Scheider throughout the film. You know,
right.
Haywood Floyd.
It's almost like a captain's log type of
captain's
deal.
log. but I'm wondering if that's something that they decided in post production they were going to put that in there, kind of like if the studio said, wait a minute, So they did those things where he's sending or keeping the journal for his wife or sending transmissions back to his wife, and then at the then there's the ending, but we can talk about that.
We'll talk about that later,
whenever you want. But I mean, I feel like these were all kind of
to your point though about doing those little tidbits throughout the film. It's almost a way that, and I'm not sure, I don't have that insight, but it's a way that the studio is making sure that the audience is informed. I almost want to say that it's a way of looking down on the audience, because it's almost like saying the audience is not going to be able to follow. But in the event that the audience was not aware of what had transpired in the first film, to your point about the 2001 aficionados, then this is a way to kind of bridge that gap, so to speak.
Which you kind of have to do,
sure,
in some respect. But I just felt like, again, I'm going to jump ahead to the ending. I feel like there's certain aspects of this film, and it's not the filmmaking. The filmmaking was good. Everybody involved with the production did a great job, and I'm not dissing any of that. But I feel like certain parts of it were a little too pat. You know what I mean? It was too literalist compared to like 2001 left it wide open, and it invited you to bring, yourself to it.
Right.
You met it halfway or not at all.
Yeah.
And this one, I think they just kind of said, here's 2001 for beginners or something, for dummies. But and again, I shouldn't say for dummies, because it's not for stupid people. It's just it was just kind of a pat.
It's a different type of it's a different type of movie.
It did certain things very well. I mean, it was much more involving on a character level, I think, than 2001. I mean, Kubrick is notoriously, he loves that kind of, the aloof kind of fisheye.
No, and I think you walk away from this film caring about the characters, and that the audience has that connection, and I think that that's very important. Again, to me, this was not a artistic film. It wasn't. It had, it was dealing with the origins of an artistic film, and it was using the what is it all about? What's going to happen? Something wonderful. What does it all mean? It's asking the questions, but at the same point in time, it's really it's assuring that you're connecting with the characters, you're caring about the characters, you have a buy-in with them, and you're wondering where all this is going to go. And you had wrote it up too in your summary. It really hits home that you have people from Earth that are from different regions, different countries, and they're working together, or supposed to be working together as scientists, for a common denominator to find out what is actually going on out there. And what's happening is they're away from all the, I'll say, the Felgercarb, the BS that's taking place on Earth, and they're really trying not to let that separate them. At first, there is that, that stress. I mean, even going into this whole thing, the way this all comes about, I mean, at the very beginning, I mean, even with that, the way how it's pretty much, where Roy Scheider is meeting with Dana Alcar and having the discussion in regards to, we know what you're doing. And you're like, yeah, right. And then you're like, really? And then they have like this ongoing thing where, give me 2 minutes. And then he's like, I'll give you 60 seconds. And it's kind of interesting, because as they're having the discussion, it's like, you're down to 30 seconds and he's doing the countdown. And it's like getting through again all of that BS that has nothing to do about anything. It's just like, it's just the people and the scenario of finding out the truth. And it really hits home with that, because it's like, I mean, we talked about it a few weeks ago during World War I on Christmas Day, when you had the two factions that were fighting. And then what happened was it was Christmas. And what they do is they put down their weapons, and they agree to celebrate the holidays together. And, they're drinking together, they're eating together, they're being festive together. And then it's like, the next day they go back, to doing, unfortunately, what they had to do. And then the folks that made it through are getting ridiculed by their superiors for having done that. You know what I mean? So it's really like the same essence of this,
Right.
And it really hits home with everything that's going on right now, not to go down that path.
Yeah, it's a more of a this is more of a transparently humanist movie. And yeah, we're involved with the characters. It touches us, I think, on an emotional level. And yeah, they get the metaphor right at the beginning of the movie where they literally are going to meet halfway. On that rig or whatever that Scheider's on, the antenna. It's successful in that regard. It's less successful, I think, where Kubrick excelled at kind of creating that sense of something greater than ourselves, something that you can't answer. You know what I mean? Like the great mysteries of the beyond. You know what I mean? And it left you like that. It's like, wow. This one kind of for all of the stuff that transpires at the end of the movie, I feel like it's still kind of served up. It's like, oh, your pizza's ready. Oh, thank you. It's my 2010 pizza. Don't burn your mouth. But yeah, so what can I say? I mean, maybe Kubrick wanted nothing to do with this movie. But Hyams, to his credit, he went to Kubrick and said, "Do you mind if I make the sequel? Because if you don't want me to do it, I'm not going to do it." And Kubrick predictably said, "Nah, I don't care. I don't want nothing to do with it."
Well, yeah, he had like a 3-hour conversation with him about it, and to Hyams, credit. I mean, he was being respectful and making sure that he was okay. That if Kubrick wasn't doing the film, that he was okay with him doing the film. And like you said, he gave him the okay with that. And I think it was pretty cool too, reading that Hyams was actually conversing with Arthur C. Clarke, and they were going back and forth, through email. Now, that's something that's very common today, but at the time in 83, 84, not something that was really done on a regular basis, because it was just like a whole type of new form of line of communication. Yeah. So the fact that it wasn't something that was, if it wasn't being used on a university level, for it to be used in this type of context was right. Was
now, again, this is like something I would have liked to have looked more into. I don't know how Arthur Clarke did what he did, because he was living in Sri Lanka since I think like 1956. So how does a best-selling author, in that era, live in Sri Lanka, like far away from the publishing capitals of the world? And he's involved with books and movies and lectures and everything. I don't know. I mean, he figured it out somehow. And I'm sure there's an Arthur C. Clarke fanatic out there, or somebody who, at least who's read an interview with him or something, to see how he managed it. But I don't know what I haven't even read any of the 2000. Oh, I did read 2001, actually. I didn't read there's like 2010, there's 20 whatever, 3001. He wrote
3001 is like the last one, isn't it?
Yeah. And the only reason I read 2001 was to try to get my head around, what they had in mind for the second half of the movie.
And it's hysterical. I remember that book. It was like a gold or brown type of border. Joe used to carry Joe Metz. Joe used to carry that thing around everywhere during the fifth and sixth grade. I mean, he always had that book with him. Oh, Phil's in the house. Phil Merkel. Captain Phil is in the house. Welcome, Phil. Good to see you out there.
Cap.
Hope you're feeling better. And, I know you were battling COVID, so get well and hope you're doing better. Let me see here. The Hague said, "I'm not a dummy. My mom had me tested." Well, there you go. And Jeff said, "I was recently diagnosed with that." And Deborah's saying Jeff Rubel 1999. What?
Party like it's 2010.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Randy's saying there was a lot of realism in the action, other than the suspended animation element. I like how they weren't entirely sure if some of their technology was going to work.
Yeah.
The Broken maneuver, for example.
Right. Which reminded me a little bit, I guess, because we had just watched Silent Running not too long ago. But it wasn't the same thing. He went through the asteroids or whatever in that one. But it was the same kind of, white knuckle thing. You knew they were going to make it, but yeah, it's But you know,
Ross,
that's a yeah.
Silent Running we did about 2 years ago. You know what we did when we did that? That's the one I did from the drive-through.
Yeah, right. You know, there was a lot of, it was this whole post-Alien kind of thing. And I'm not saying that it was, you know, I mean, the legacy of Alien lives on in all of our dystopian films now. The very lived in kind of, I mean, they started doing a little bit in Star Wars where nothing was shiny and new. But this had that same kind of look, although nothing was like really run down, but it looked like it was real. You know what I mean? It didn't look like a shiny rocket or something that they went up to the discovery, and it looked like you know, the interior of the yeah, what's the Joseph Conrad book? Oh, the Nostromo. You know, not quite like that, but it had a little bit of that feel to it. It felt real, and I love the fact that Mary Jo Deschanel played Bowman's widow.
Yes,
who remarried because she played Scott Glenn's wife in The Right Stuff. So I guess she just made a career playing astronauts' wives. But you know, Ed Harris.
Ed Harris, yeah,
The Right Stuff. Yeah, she's married to Caleb Deschanel, who was the cinematographer on The Right Stuff. They didn't meet on the movie, but he's an Academy Award, you know, winning cinematographer, and they're parents to Zoe Deschanel.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ed's
wife, exactly. Ed Harris's wife.
And then the film, yeah.
Yeah.
Brendan said Arthur C. Clarke appeared in the movie as the man in the park feeding the pigeons.
Right. And they also, I don't know if you noticed or not, but the Time magazine at a point where they had Arthur Clarke and Stanley Kubrick on the cover.
What a nod, right?
Yeah. It's like we have to outdo Alfred Hitchcock's cameo in Lifeboat, where they open the paper and he's in an ad for weight reduction on the paper.
Randy said Natasha Schneider looked fantastic in this. I think she had something to do with Queens of the Stone Age.
Yeah. You know, I had to look her up because I felt the same way. Yeah, sadly, she died in her 50s. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she died young.
Yeah.
But yeah, she had a look. Yeah. And I mean, great cast. I mean, come on. I mean, Roy Scheider, Helen Miren, John Lithgow, and the great Bob Balaban, who was in everything back then. It still is, but you know, he never seems to get the fanfare that so many other actors do. But Bob Balaban's always, you know, reliable. And back then, he was always
that guy.
He was the science guy. You know what I mean? It's like if they couldn't get Jeff Goldblum, it was bad. Bob Balaban. They were like neck and neck at the beginning. Then Jeff Goldblum just kind of walked off with all the science roles, the quirky science roles. But Bob Balaban, you know, he's in Close Encounters, Altered States. You know, he was in granted, he was the translator in Close Encounters, but you know, he's in a lot of stuff. I mean, he's in Midnight Cowboy, you know. But yeah, he was great in this. He sold that, you know, they gave that great, you know, they brought back Hal, and of course everybody's thinking, oh, Hal, but they gave that great spin on the character arc of Hal. I mean, and Bob Balaban is what makes that work. You know, he's the one that really sells the, you know.
Absolutely, and you know what? The Space 1999 fans out there are going to realize where I'm going with this. But there's a character in Space 1999 in the first season, and it's David Kano, and he is almost obsessed with computer, and computer really has a huge part in the first season of 1999 because he treats it as though it's, you know, it's as an entity, so to speak. And at one point when the computer is going to get deactivated, he's just beside himself. And there's shades of that actually with Bob Balaban's character with this, because he really has that connection to Hal, and you don't know the direction he's going to go with things. They kind of keep it kind of like aloof, where you're not certain if he's going to betray, you know, the scientists, or if he's going to, you know, you just don't know what direction it's going to go.
Right.
And the way they handle it is brilliant. And you're even thinking that you're almost like waiting for Hal to go, you know,
of course. Yeah.
I mean, it's almost like, you know, you're being fed that, and it just kind of, and without giving a 40-year-old movie away if you haven't seen it. It's
Mhm.
just that the direction it does go in is like, oh, okay, So
it
it's
was one
all
of the reasons that it was worthwhile to make the sequel. I thought that they didn't just repeat the
no,
first one.
did
They
not.
they managed to do something more, at least in that respect, because there's a lot of it where I kind of felt like, you remember what, yeah, of course everybody remembers the Close Encounters uh, special edition, where for the first time you go inside the mothership and you go back and you see it, and yeah, there's some extra footage in there, and Spielberg trimmed out some stuff and tightened it up, but you could just drop off the whole thing where he goes inside the ship, and it's just, it was just kind of a, it was a way for him to get the money, Spielberg, to get the money to make the film the way he wanted it, because it kind of rushed into release. But there was a gimmick to have Dreyfuss go inside the mothership, and I felt like that through a lot of this movie. I thought, for the first time, you will, and it's like, what's the use of this movie? But as the movie went on, they did do some things that made it.
Well, that's the whole thing. I mean, when you
so
have
much fan service, but go ahead.
When you have a build up like that,
Yeah,
it's almost like you want to have the. I mean, it's great to have the build up, but then you have to come out on the other side of it, and you don't want the build up to be better than what actually is going to happen. You know what I mean? It's
something
because then
wonderful. It kind of was. The build up kind of was better than what happened, but yeah,
because then it turns into this like letdown essentially.
Well, come on. I mean, yeah, go ahead. Finish your point.
Go ahead.
No, I'll spin off onto something else, and you won't get to finish your point if you had one.
No, I got it. Go ahead.
Okay. I am just saying, like Bowman, or what was Bowman, he kept saying something wonderful is going to happen. Oh, I can't tell you. I don't have the words for it. It's like, I could have described what happened, what was going to happen. If I knew that was going to happen, I would have said in like 2 seconds. It's like, well, this is what's going to happen. I guess he had no vocabulary after he went through the light show. It erased his vocabulary. Maybe that happened to me sometimes too, because I lose my vocabulary.
See.
Yeah. But anyway, I don't know if what happened was something wonderful, but it was extraordinary.
It was extraordinary, and almost it depends on how you define wonderful, I guess.
The way it was depicted was not wonderful.
Oh, there you go.
Let's just say that it was kind of mundane, I thought. But that's my that's why I say it was 3/4 of an underrated film. That people don't either dismiss the movie or they don't know the movie even. But I feel like, and again, I don't know if it was pressure from the studio or whatever, that they had to keep it to 2 hours, because the movie's I think just about exactly 2 hours, isn't it?
2 hours. Yeah.
And I wonder if they said it's got to be done in 2 hours, because they could have gone a little further with what they did instead of like kind of just tying it up with a ribbon, your pizza in a ribbon.
I'm sure there was studio interference on some level. There had to be, unfortunately. But
it was, it was I think they did a respectable job. There you go, Monday. It's true.
See, our viewers know you, Ross.
I can't believe they're still watching. Yeah. It's true.
They know who you are, Ross.
Yeah, mundane is a thumbs up from Ross. like this. It's getting there.
It's getting there. No.
Yeah. But
now, in regards to this film, I mean, talking about, and I'm going to jump ahead a little bit, but referring to the director of this movie and Peter Hyams. I mean, he had done Outland right before this. He did Outland, and I guess Outland came out in 1981. And this is what pretty much gave him this movie, though, because and we've talked about that film. And Capricorn 1, I mean, another brilliant film.
Right. Yeah, he's good. He's done good work. It's at the time I was kind of dismissive because it always seemed that Peter Hyams and John Badham were the two that were always just kind of putting out these 2.5-star movies. But you look back at them now, and it's like, yeah, they were solid entertainment. They're much better than a lot of Yeah. See, yeah. I mean, it's a satisfying movie, Outland, and the Capricorn One's a fun movie.
Yep.
I'm not gonna badmouth the guy who gave us Capricorn One and Outland,
No,
even if
definitely
he did do Hanover Street with Harrison Ford.
Oh, that's right. That's right. I
Yeah.
forgot about that.
Yeah.
Brendan said the novel went more into subject of life on Europa, and the new sun was wonderful for that. There was also a race with the Chinese to get to the discovery.
Yeah. See that's. I was wondering if they were to make a third movie because, yeah. Again, I didn't read any of the Arthur Clarke books, but the very fact that we get that message. Turn off the sound if you haven't seen the movie and you don't want to spoil because I'm going to say some stuff.
Right.
But anyway, you get the message at the end of the movie where they flash up the message on the computer screen. It says, all these worlds are yours except Europa. Attempt no landing there. Use them together. Use them in peace. I mean, and basically you get and you see as the camera pans across, you expect to see like Spock's little coffin sitting there on the Genesis planet, but it's another Eden, and it has the warning built right into it. The temptation is there. You can have all this except Europa. So I was wondering if in the third book, or if they did a third movie, if of course somebody would go to Europa, and it would just turn into I don't know, Prometheus or something. I told you not to go to Europa, but man exercises his free will, and of course, it's the the tree of knowledge all over again.
Well, yeah, exactly. I was just going to say there's the biblical implications of
but I don't know that he went there, and having not read the books, but just from that message, it's like it's a message of hope, but I don't know. You get that warning in there about Europa. I'm not so. And I love how the president of the United States and the Russian leader wake up then and they see the extra sun. They go, oh, well, we can be peaceful now. It's like, what? That's what I mean. They just kind of like tied it up too easily for me, for my taste. And I'm not busted on the film. I just think that if there was interference, if they had been allowed to do what they wanted to do and maybe made it a little longer and done some more with the ending, it would have been a better movie. Oh, there you go.
There you go. There it is.
Yeah, and you find out, you jumble it around a little bit and you realize it says to serve man. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. It's a cookbook. Thanks a lot, Monolith.
Oh, Ross. You made me laugh.
Yeah. Sorry.
That's all good.
Yeah. So, yeah. What were some of my other beefs about this movie? No, I didn't have a lot of beefs. So those are pretty much. I found it interesting going back and I did read The Sentinel, the story that Arthur Clarke had originally written before Kubrick decided to adapt it into 2001, and they worked out the details together. But I don't remember anything about it. Apparently, it wasn't originally a monolith. It was like a tetrahedral pyramid, like more of a triangle. But they had used, I don't know what they were using, plexiglass or whatever it was. And the people that manufactured it said it'd be a lot easier if you just did like a slab. So, it's funny because Kubrick is notorious for having such control. He keeps such tight reins on every aspect of production. And it was basically a practical decision to go with the monolith instead of this, pyramid. And in fact, it was a clear monolith, but he didn't like the way it filmed, how it came up on camera. It just didn't look good. So somebody suggested, well, why don't we just paint it flat black? And that's how we got the iconic monolith. Was a very practical solution.
And then there's the interesting aspect of it, because then what happens is scholars and researchers and writers, will read into it and try to decipher what does it all mean. And it in that sense, almost coming down to budget. You know what I mean? It's like,
yeah. Well, it's the illusion, it's the magic of the movies, because there is deeper meaning to it. But the fact that you're just looking at a piece of painted plexiglass,
right.
You put a little niggity on the soundtrack with the chorus.
Well, it's the symbolism. It's exactly.
Yeah. And it was interesting to cast Roy Scheider.
Did you ever see All That Jazz?
Yeah. Oh yeah, I did. Yeah. But they cast Roy Scheider as Haywood Floyd, because it's not really the Haywood Floyd that we get in the other movie.
No, that guy was a big brawling guy. He was a lot older looking. It was totally
Sylvester.
Different character, totally different character.
He wasn't as loosey goosey as Scheider tried to. As not Scheider, but as the Haywood Floyd of 2010 tried to come across.
Right.
Clearly, there were other, tensions underneath that, but he was the loosey goosey, keeping it loose, the American guy.
I always liked Roy Scheider, though.
He brought that. They probably got him because. He plays. Everybody knows him from Jaws. He's in a lot of stuff. He was in French Connection.
That's right.
I finally saw Sorcerer. If Christian's out there, Christian Lawlence. I think I might have mentioned that though.
Did you watch Sequest? Were you a Sequest watcher?
I remember when it was on. I don't know if I watched a whole episode. I may have seen like a little bit of it. I was surprised that he did it, because he's such a big actor. But
I really enjoyed that show. I remember when it debuted. It was the year Ryan was born. It was 93, and it was on for 3 seasons, but he was only in the 2. And the way they ended the second year, and then they brought in I can't think of the guy's name, and the other guy that they brought in as the lead, excellent actor, but it was just like it took the show into such a different direction, and it just I fell off, and shortly after that it was canceled. It's the guy that was in Total Recall. He was the antagonist. Yeah.
Really? Ironside?
Michael Ironside. Yes.
Oh man! See you at the party, Victor.
Yes.
Yeah.
He was. He was great in that film, and he was in. Remember Scanners? He was in Scanners.
Right. He always plays the villain, so he was the hero. And
he was the hero. Yeah.
Wow. Good for him.
I think they had a crossover where they brought him in, like Roy Scheider in for maybe the first episode of the 3rd season, but the show went in such a different direction. It was just like, it was toast. It was. Jeff Rubel commenting, some of the production design I thought looked less sophisticated than in 2001, mainly the spacesuits that looked like they came from the space shuttle with the gigantic handles on the helmets to seal the visors. That was why Hyams' sci-fi films always had a slightly cheap-looking edge to them.
Yeah, they did an interesting job of recreating. Like I said, there was fan service. They recreated the Discovery. They did the sets minutely, meticulously recreated that Bowman's spacesuit, the same from the 68 film. But yes, they did have different suits. But one thing they did adhere to was the whole corporate, in 2001, you had Pan Am, you had the Bell telephone. I wonder if Haywood Floyd ever got his daughter the Bush baby, the one that's the daughter that's grown now. Because I thought, wait a minute, he didn't have a son. He had but it comes out later that the daughter was grown.
Right. He remarried. His wife died.
Right, remarried. And then he had the Day of the Dolphin. He had the dolphins in his swimming pool.
which was like a foreshadow to Sequest. Because Darwin was the dolphin in Sequest.
Yeah, some Terminator must have gone back in time and told him about it. Friendly Terminator. Yeah, well, after just doing Star Trek 4 last week, of course, when the monolith shows up, I'm hearing whale song, and then they had the dolphins in the swimming pool. I thought, wow, what's going on here? So long, and thanks for all the fish.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Marathon.
Chris saying Roy Scheider was a brilliant, outstanding actor. He sadly left his work in that's right, Chris. Marathon Man, Sorcerer, Blue Thunder, 2010, Sequest, DSV. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
We're gonna need a bigger boat. We're gonna need a bigger space.
Bigger spaceship. We're going to need a smaller monolith. Yeah. We're going to need a bigger spaceship. That's true. Like, how gratuitous was that monolith? Like, really? Was it 2 kilometers long or something?
Yeah. Well, when that pod is going past it, that was on this work ever fly Pan.
I think I did fly Pan Am once.
Back
they didn't go out until like 91.
Yeah, back in the day, Randy, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think we flew on Pan Am to go visit my grandparents in Florida. If I'm not mistaken, I'd actually have to check with my.
It's
my
back
dad
when
about
they would give you stuff when you flew with them, like the little,
They'd give you the wings, and they would give you.
and,
I remember getting an airplane, like a little like it wasn't a model, but it was almost like a die-cast plane, and the landing gear came down.
Mm.
Although that may have been from Eastern, but yeah.
Now you can't even get a meal.
You can't even get a meal. Yeah, right.
Yeah, but yeah, and then in Wildwood, if anybody ever went to Wildwood, New Jersey, they had all the Googie architecture and the motels along the beach. There was a Pan American hotel down there, and I don't know, it might still be there. I'm not sure if they tore it down or not, but it was right next to the Crusader. I remember.
Watch the tram car, please.
But it was funny because it was still it was still there after Pan Am went out. I don't know if that had any connection to them or not. But yeah, so they doubled down. That's one of the things that 2001 gets wrong. If you want to go through and go, oh, they couldn't predict the future,
Right. Wow.
Which is really petty. But they doubled down in this one and still have Pan Am. But yeah, so there's always this corporate presence in the movies. Not sinister though, really.
No.
You know what I mean? Like usually when that happens, it turns into like a RoboCop movie or something.
No, it definitely wasn't like that this time around.
It was just kind of it showed continuity. I think that there were still, was there Howard Johnson is in the first one? I can't remember. But there was definitely Pan Am, and there's the Bell telephone, and it was supposed to show that this was the future, but still, even though it's fantastic and beyond our realm of expectation, it was still rooted in our present. The Atari building. Yeah, right. Oops.
Yeah.
You can't get them all right. But the larger theme of this movie, that the message of peace, and that we need to work together to not just progress, but to survive, is still relevant. I mean, that's the other thing this movie never foresaw. I mean, they were still treating the Russians as if they were Soviets.
Yep.
And you think, how outdated the wall came down in 89. And then you go, oh, wait a minute. It's still exactly the same. It's still exactly the same between us.
Yeah.
So sadly, and I mean, look at all the armed conflict around the world right now. And
exactly.
No,
and that's why this film is so powerful, because I think that it really is bringing that to the forefront about peace, about working together. Mm-hmm. And I love the way, Roy Scheider's character, Haywood Floyd, I mean, pretty much puts all of the bureaucracy aside and basically says that he wants to work things out, and saying, what, we need to do what we need to do, and we have to work together, and for the common good, for their survival. And just like when he's embracing that Russian girl because she's terrified. I mean, he's holding her. I mean, they don't know if they're going to make it, essentially, when they're doing that, the slingshot effect. And then on the flip side of it, where they have to work together to do what they have to do in order to try to make it back to Earth. And if they hadn't done that and followed orders, look what would have happened. Both, sides would have died as a result of it.
Well, and then he has his moment with Helen Miren too, Tanya. Sure.
Yeah,
where he sneaks the Kentucky bourbon on board, and she's totally by the book by comparison. Right. But they have that human moment between them. They have you can tell they're people,
Yeah, it was brilliant writing, and I
Yeah,
love it when she says to him, in regards to Kentucky, it must be such a wonderful place, and he's like, "Couldn't tell you, I've never been there."
yeah,
It was just
yeah. They have a big race. They they have babies like everybody else, or whatever he said. Yeah, she says sounds like a wonderful place. Helen Mirren was her father was Russian, or is Russian, was Russian, I guess.
yeah.
I'm sure he's long gone now, but he was an exiled Russian aristocrat. He was part of the nobility in Russia. So she speaks. That was not acting. That was, she knows Russian.
And this movie, from my understanding, is what was her first American film. She got her SAG card as a result of doing this movie. And look at everything that she's gone on to do. I mean,
Yeah. I'd seen her in a number of things before this, so I had no idea it was her first American movie.
Yeah,
her name is Mironov, her birth name. So
okay.
So
and she's she's a dame now too.
She's a dame.
She's a dame.
She is. Yeah, she gets better with age, Helen. I must say. Yeah, but be that as it may, John Lithgow, who actually lived here in Princeton for a number of years. I'm not sure if he went to the university or not, or if his dad taught there or something. But
I have to interject about John Lithgow. Shari and I, actually, Ryan had gotten us tickets for Christmas for a Broadway show, and it was back in, I think it was in I think it was 2018.
Was it M. Butterfly?
It was before COVID, and it was a one-man show that he did about his life. And it was he was so good, and we saw him, and we saw it on it was like the 1st of January that we went. It was on a Sunday, and he knocked it out of the park, and just so talented, and he really comes across very well in this film. And before this movie, the first time I had seen him had been in the Twilight Zone movie, because he actually was doing it was a segmented type of movie where they were redoing the episodes from the original Twilight Zone,
right.
Which, ironically enough, that was back in '82. Sadly, that Vic Morrow, what had happened to him when he lost his life in that right. accident and everything. Right. I think John Landis was the director on that film. Mm-hmm. So there was only like maybe a 20-year gap between Twilight Zone and that movie. But anyway, he did Nightmare on 20,000 Feet, which originally was had William Shatner in that role.
Which I thought was the strongest segment in the movie. It was George Miller, the guy who did the Mad Max movies and a number of other things. But he was terrific in that. So over the top, but wonderful. I did see him also on stage. It occurs to me in M. Butterfly. It was a drama on Broadway, and John Lone was in it also. I don't know if we hear much about John Lone anymore, but he was in Michael Cimino's Year of the Dragon. Okay, and a number of movies. The Hague will know who he is, but he's a Cimino fan. But it didn't occur to me until you said you saw him on stage. It's like, wait a minute, I saw him on stage too.
How long ago did you see him, Ross?
Probably back in the 80s, late 80s.
I think actually the first movie I saw him in, I'm saying it was the Twilight Zone movie, but there was a movie that was a year prior to that, which was 1981. Saw it at the Budco, and it was The World According to Garp.
Yeah, that's the first time I saw him, I believe. Yeah. That was kind of his breakout.
Yeah.
So, but he's one of those guys that was in everything. You knew when you were going to go to the movies, you were going to see John Lithgow, you were going to see Brian Dennehy, you were going to see, there were just certain actors that were just in everything back then. Yeah. I don't know. There's another name that's flitting around. I can see his face, but I can't. Oh, M. Emmett Walsh. Remember M. Emmett Walsh? He was in everything. He was in Blade Runner. He had a part in Blade Runner.
I do.
He was he's in the Coen Brothers movies, and he was in a lot of stuff. He's still around.
Matt's out there. Just to interject, Matt's out there. Hey, Matt, thanks for joining. M. Emmett Brown. What was the last thing?
M. Emmett Walsh.
Or M. Emmett Walsh. I'm trying to think of the last thing I saw him in.
He was in Knives Out was the last thing I think I saw.
Yes, that was with Daniel Craig, wasn't it?
Daniel Craig, right?
Yes, yes. Okay.
But he's still around, as far as I know. So I found it interesting that Candice Bergen did the. Oh, there you go, Brian De Palma. Yeah, John Lithgow was in the De Palma movies. He was in Obsession with Cliff Robertson, where he had that tan that drove Brian De Palma crazy.
Oh,
Where
okay.
he showed up for the love scene with Genevieve Bujold. It's just totally like red brown.
Oh boy.
Yeah, Blood Simple, right? And Annette Walsh was terrific in that, right? So, but Candice Bergen had a uncredited part in this movie. Yeah, she was Sal 9000.
Okay.
So, sadly, Sal 9000 and Hal 9000 never got to meet cute. But maybe in the third movie, if they do a third movie.
Maybe.
I didn't realize it was her until I had read about it later.
I missed that, Ross. I didn't catch that was her. That's interesting.
And
The Hague saying Walsh had an awesome part in Best of Times. Kurt Russell and Robin Williams forgotten classic. Oh,
right. And then of the Russians, I recognize Samalik Kramirov because he was in Moscow and the Hudson with Robin Williams. He played Vladimir Rudenko, the one that went to explore the 2-kilometer monolith, and it didn't turn out so well.
That was tragic. That was
because they took the time to, again though, the human element. They took the time to establish that kind of bond with Lithgow and yeah, if it had just been some random guy, nobody would have.
No, you would have cared, but you wouldn't have cared to the level that you did. And
how many pre-credits? Well, we don't have credits anymore in the movies, but how many opening sequences do we have where it's just some schmo who gets shot down just to show the awesome power of the enemy or whatever, just to make your head rattle, make your fillings rattle, but we don't care. Yeah.
Natasha Schneider was the girl who, yes, exactly. Now she passed away, right, Ross?
She did. And I didn't realize she was in she did a lot with music. She was in a band but yeah, she died of cancer in her 50s.
Wow.
Sadly.
Sue is commenting, Roy, I saw John Lithgow in his show Perfectly Ridiculous at the Providence Performance Arts Center in June 2001. He was positively delightful and thoroughly entertaining. Yeah, brilliant actor, Sue. Totally agree. Yeah, we were just saying that. I'm holding the ticket stub in my hand right now. Oh, nice. Make sure you hold on to it, Sue. You don't want anybody taking that because they may try to see the show in a time loop, and you don't want that to happen. Queens of the Stone Age.
Yes, that was the group, right?
Helen Miren's birth name, Alana Lydia. And I'm not even going to try that.
Yeah, never enough.
There you go.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, as I said, there was all kinds of fan service. I mean, they hit you right at the beginning with my God, it's full of stars, and they have to do it twice in the movie.
And keep you engaged.
Keep you engaged. You had Hal, you had Keir Dullea, you had the Discovery, of course, the monolith. And they gave you a whole lot of monoliths in this one.
Well, and what I liked too is that they give you a sample of something that's going to happen, and they don't define it, but they make it ominous to a point. Not on the same level, obviously, as 2001, but enough where it's like, ooh, we better get out of here. You know what I mean? We still don't have any answers. I mean, if anything, what's wonderful is the fact of what he is pretty much that message. That message to me is wonderful. It's pretty much telling them,
except for the implied or else.
Yeah. But live in peace. I mean, it's almost, I guess the fact that there's a presence, there's almost like a higher order that's being established, and the fact that what is happening by all means, by all known laws, should not be happening, and it's just that aspect of it, because it's all encompassing, and it's beyond trying to figure out. It's beyond our interpretation of what is possible. So in that sense, it's showing that there's this power that's so defined, but don't mess with it, and giving that message. So I think that in itself, it's almost like a taste. But Randy commented earlier, he's like, it says, don't. And of course, what do humans do when you tell them not to do something? They go ahead and they want to do it even more so. Not that they want to, in regards to whatever it is. It's just the fact that you're saying don't do it. You're telling me not to do it. So it's like, how can I do this?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
what's going on in Europa?
Yeah.
Oh,
exactly.
it's a space jockey.
Yeah. So I think that was really clever on their the filmmakers' part of doing that.
Yeah.
I guess when it comes down to us, we have to go back and read the books. That's what.
Again, I haven't read the book, so
I haven't either.
And in the case of the last 3 2001 books, or whatever you want to call them as a series, they were written, before there was any kind of filming going on. 2001 was written at the same time, working out the ideas that he and Kubrick had fleshed out for the movie. Doing Excalibur, Helen Miren. I would love to do Excalibur.
I know you would.
for Roy. I love that movie. See, that's when I would give that an enthusiastic thumbs up.
1981, if I remember.
81, yeah. You'll do Zardoz, but you won't do Excalibur.
I got blindsided on Zardoz.
I know. I'm almost sorry we already did Zardoz. I would love to go back and do that again.
So would Linda, if Linda was out there. Oh, and I'm not even going to read what The Hague wrote.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. No, Excalibur is a great movie.
Yeah, right. What did it say about the disco? What did it say? Or can't you put it up there?
No, Brendan didn't say anything bad. He just said very disco. Lots of
very
lines.
Disco. There you go.
There you
And
go.
of course, Helen Miren was in that too.
Yeah.
We do a Miren month, Roy.
There we go.
Do
Now
Excalibur.
we're talking, Ross.
Yeah.
How the heck is that movie 42 years old? Oh my God, Ross. It's just
43.
Oh my God, that's right. It's 20. Oh man.
It's a good thing we don't write checks anymore. We do the wrong dates on everything.
I used to do that. Patrick Stewart. Yeah.
Right. Patrick Stewart was in. Everybody was in it. Gabrielle Byrne, Sharon Hines, or Karen Hines, and Liam Neeson. Every time I watch that movie, somebody else famous is in it.
Sherry's a big Liam Neeson fan.
Yeah, sadly, the guy who played Percival, Jeffrey, what's his name? Jeffrey Bergen? Jeffrey, somebody will know. He was selling real estate in New Mexico, and never, he just got out of acting. I guess once in a while he did something, but he never attained that level of celebrity that all the others did. He never got a shot.
It's interesting that you're saying that, Ross, because I hear that a lot of actors actually go into real estate.
Yeah. Somebody else just did that. I was looking that up. Maybe one of the movies we did last week. Maybe it was Savik from Star Trek 3, or Savik.
Yeah, Savik. Yeah, Robin
Curtis.
Curtis. She got involved in real estate. Yep.
Yeah.
Also, you know who else? Seeing her at a Star Trek convention when Vince and I went back in the day, Yvonne Craig. She actually got involved in real estate as well. She left the acting.
Just like Lex Luthor.
Just like Lex Luthor, yeah.
So,
but good stuff. Good stuff.
Good stuff. Otisburg.
I love that movie. That is just such a great film.
I do too. But Peter Hyams, I found it interesting. I think I knew this before, but as you get older, you forget stuff. So everything is like a brand new, astonishing discovery, even if you knew it before. But Peter Hyams, I'm the music guy. His stepfather, well, his father was a theatrical producer, but his stepfather was the conductor Arthur Leaf, who is not a big name conductor, but I've got some of his recordings here. It's like, wow, that's Peter Hyams' stepdad.
Wow.
And but most impressive is his grandfather. His maternal grandfather was Sol Hurok, and Sol Hurok brought like every major musician to this country and promoted them and sent them around the country. He was a very powerful entertainment impresario, big deal. And you'll see his name if you read entertainment histories all the time. So Sol Hurok was Peter Hyams' grandfather.
Wow. See, it is a small world.
It is a small world, and he's part of a dynasty. Yeah.
I really wish, Jeffrey was supposed to potentially going to join us, and Jeffrey actually knows Peter Hyams personally. It would have been interesting to have gotten a little bit of insight.
Yeah.
In regards to Peter Hyams, but unfortunately he wasn't able to join us because he's pretty much tied up with some stuff that's going on. But definitely, the next time he's on, definitely going to run that by him though, just to talk about that, because it would just be interesting to find out those, that connection in regards to him though. I mean, when you think about the movies that he's made and everything, it's pretty significant. I mean, we discussed Capricorn 1 a while ago, and that is a favorite film of mine. It's one of those movies I don't watch very often, but then I'll go back and rewatch it, and it's like, this is just such a great film. Outland, again, we were talking about, awesome movie. Yeah.
He did a lot of stuff.
He really did.
But these were some of the better films.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
But couple things I wanted to bring up though, and then we'll circle back. Go ahead.
Of the actors, I forgot to mention Dana Eklar.
Yes,
who was the only American who was playing a Russian.
Yeah.
How many movies and television shows have we seen him in?
He did. I mean, do you remember the Nude Bomb?
Yes, he played Chief in the Nude Bomb. That's right.
Sadly, Edward Platt had actually passed away. He passed away.
Yeah.
He died in the early 70s after and he was playing the Chief. But he, sadly, if I remember correctly, too, I think he suffered from blindness. And
really?
Yeah. Before I think he's since passed. But he, I don't know if it was macular degeneration, but he actually wound up going blind, and very, very sad. But to your point, Ross, did tons of episodic television. So seeing him in this movie back in the day, it was just like, oh wow, there he is. I mean, he was always on the screen.
The Nude Bomb. I go back to that time period instantly and never look back.
Talking about the Nude Bomb, I was so just. You know where I saw that movie at? I saw that. The State Theater.
The State showed the Nude Bomb. They did show Buck Rogers in the 25th Century, so why not?
Well, and they also showed the film that whatchamacallit did. Oh my God, it was the black and white film. It was, it got not a good rating. It was with Marlon Brando. My God.
What, like an older one?
Yeah. What was the movie that he did that was I think it was like X-rated. No.
The Last Tango. That's not black and white. Last Tango in Paris? Is that the one you're talking about?
Yeah, I thought that was black and white. I didn't see it.
No.
But anyway,
done tons of black and white movies, but yeah.
They showed that there. Well, I mean, he was in Streetcar Named Desire, but anyway, no, but they showed the Nude Bomb there. And I was like, oh, what a disappointment, though.
Yeah, I remember they did Dawn of the Dead. They showed there. They showed The Shining.
Yep.
And of course, all the Sun Classic pictures. Like with Bigfoot and the Bermuda Triangle, and yeah.
Brennan, Dana Eklar was a regular on the old.
Yes.
The Hague. I would go back to these and look and not look back in an instant, except for my wife and daughter and mistress.
There you go.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, oh look, he put it's like a little human addendum to Hague's statement, and then he's like, and my mistress.
The Hague being the Hague.
I was about to tear up until I read the end of it. The Hague being the Hague.
We could expect no less.
But then you have the adventure of going around and trying to find them back in the 80s. Except your mistress wouldn't have been born yet. See, there's a screenplay in this. Another $1 million idea.
Oh,
I'm giving it out for free.
Ross, you just hit a new low. Matt saying it was in color. Would you be able to oh my God. Anyway.
Man, don't lope all those to Matt. Another underhand pitch to Matt.
It's good to laugh. It's been a stressful couple of weeks. Oh my God. It's been a stressful couple of months. Jeez.
Yeah.
It's good to have some humor. But anyway, highly recommend this movie, folks. If you haven't seen it, and what I will say is if you have seen it and you haven't seen it in a long time, definitely watch it. It's really, really good. And it really has meaning. And it is not your typical sequel. It is not a remake of the original. And in this case, is a good thing. So
it's sci-fi for adults.
It really is.
It is without being, horror, without it being gory or, it's not R-rated sci-fi. It's sci-fi for real adults, for people who, don't want to be condescended to.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's on Tubi. Exactly. You can watch it on Tubi.
Randy said recently rewatched it. Very glad I did. Glad to hear, Randy. Thanks for sharing that. Yeah, exactly. And like I said, I watched it only for the first time in like years, just a few nights ago, and I was just like, wow, this is so good.
Yeah.
I mean, it just really, they knocked it out of the park.
I also have a feeling, cutting it down to 2 hours, I feel like they cut out some of Roy Scheider's characterization. I feel like there was more to whatever he was doing there.
I want to say about him though, such a good actor. I mean, anything you see him in, you really believe in him, and he just really he is so convincing. And he carries the movie. I mean, you can't go wrong with him.
I do wish they would have kept the Bush baby. Like instead of having dolphins in the pool, if he had a Bush baby running around the house. Would have been a nice Easter egg.
Yeah. Right.
Fan service, Roy. Fan service.
It's all about
for fandom.
For fandom, Ross. For fandom.
For fandom. Oh,
TV also has it on Doctor Who's now, including the Tom Baker's Loving Them All. Oh, that's
I didn't know that. The Superman movies are on there now,
including
1 and 2. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which are the only ones that count.
Those are the only ones that count, in my opinion, as well. So there you go. We'd like to. One thing I want to do is I want to say one thing we cover on the show too is all roads lead to Star Trek. It's funny. I was kind of like, I'm not making the Star Trek connection, and then I forgot. Craig Huxley was involved, electronic music engineer. For the folks out there who remember Craig Huxley from Star Trek, the original series, he played Captain Kirk's nephew Peter in Operation Annihilate. And then fast forward 2 seasons later, he came back as a character that was in the episode And the Children Shall Lead. And he was one.
Good catch. Good catch, Roy.
Thanks, Ross. And then he also was involved in Star Trek The Motion Picture in regards to the effects or the sound effects in regards to that. So it was pretty cool. It was the Trek connection with that.
Yeah.
But, we're down. Yes, we are, and don't forget that. Regards to music, Ross, David Shire,
and the use of music in this movie. That was another thing that was a little disappointing to me that they brought back. They had to bring back also Rock Zarathustra. The big sunrise music that they use the first time you see the monolith, and when the Star Child appears at the end of the 2001. They had to bring that back at the beginning and end of this movie, but they didn't give it like kind of the reverence, the resonance, that Kubrick did. You know what I mean? Where it was awesome. Like in this, they just played it. I mean, come on. I mean, this blew it out with the opening credits, in front of the radio tower or what have you. And it's, whatever. And at the end of the movie, again, when they pan across and you see the monolith, they start it. And then it just goes to the end credits, and they're playing it over the end credits. That's not how you use the music for Also Sprach. But I guess, they had to cram it into I'm sure that there was like, this movie's got to be 2 hours, and we're going to shut off the projector. Okay, well, we'll just have it bleed over the credits then. And the Ligeti, whenever they showed the monolith, they had to have the choir and the avant-garde, aleatoric choir going there that was used in the first film, but they would only do it for a few seconds and then dial it down. So, but that's not by David Shire. That's outside music that was in the first movie that they had to call back. David Shire himself was born in 1937. He's still alive. He's 86 years old. Wow. He wrote scores to some familiar movies, especially in the 1970s. I mean, I'm sure that you've heard of at least some of these: The Big Bus, The Taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3, sure. The Conversation, the Francis Ford Coppola, Gene Hackman movie, All the President's Men. He did the score, which nobody remembers, to Saturday Night Fever because it was like washed out by the Bee Gees. But there were a few scenes where there was some music, underscore, and he did the music for that. And the last thing I remember seeing, and I know he wrote beyond that, but the last thing I remember seeing his name on in the theater was Return to Oz when I went to see that, which was probably back around the time I saw 2010, but maybe a few years later. But so he had a pretty good career in the movies. He was born in Buffalo. His dad was a band leader. He attended Yale, where he met Richard Maltby Jr., and the two of them started writing musicals. And they remained collaborators through his entire career. Anytime he wrote for the theater, he worked with this guy. He married Talia Shire, who was Francis Ford Coppola's sister, I believe.
And she was known for the Rocky movies.
So he's part of the whole Coppola clan.
Yeah.
With Nicolas Cage and Jason Schwartzman and all these people are Coppolas.
That whole entourage, Ross.
Yeah, Sophia Coppola. They're you missed it all, Leslie. You're on the music. You missed something wonderful.
Something wonderful this way comes.
Something wonderful this way comes.
Yeah.
Something, yeah. So he won the Academy Award in 1979 for Best Original Song for Norma Ray, the song It Goes Like It Goes. He was nominated the same year for another song for The Promise, which I did not see. I'll Never Say Goodbye.
The movie The Promise?
Yes.
1980 movie.
Well, it was at the same ceremony. Apparently.
Wow. Okay. You know who's in that? Stephen Collins and
really? Maybe I'm wrong.
Stephen Collins and Kathleen Quinlan. I love that. Actually, no, Ross, I'm sorry. The Promise was 1978. Maybe it's a different Promise movie because I mean that is a common title, but it was Stephen Collins and Kathleen Quinlan, and it came out in 78. I'm sorry.
Well, he co-wrote it with the Bergmans. Is it Marilyn and is it Alan Bergman? They just died not too long ago, or one of them did. I think they both did. I don't know, but they were legendary songwriters. And he was nominated for that. He was nominated for 5 Emmys. He did music for television, for theater. He played piano in the original productions of the Fantastics and Funny Girl. And he was Barbara Streisand's accompanist for many years. He co-wrote with Maltby, this guy, Richard Maltby, Baby and Big, the musicals. Yeah. Both of which were Tony nominated. And when he divorced from Talia Shire at some point, and then he married Didi Khan in 1984. Remember Didi Khan?
The name sounds familiar.
She was, she was in Grease for one thing, but she was also in You Light Up My Life earlier than that. She was Frenchie in Grease.
Yep.
Yeah. So they got married in 84 and they're still married. So that's basically what I found out. I mean, there's some other stuff that's not really that interesting, but that's David Shire in a nutshell.
While you were going through that, Ross, I looked up about the movie The Promise, and I really love that movie, and I have not been able to find a copy of that, either that's streaming or a physical copy. But
Yeah.
the music to that movie was really, really beautiful. It was amazing. And I just looked it up, and it was David Shire. It was 78 that came out, and he did it. So nice connection there.
I want to look something up here because I might have. I don't know if he's the right composer. Cocktail Piano.
I could see how that film would have won an award for that music, because the music was incredible. It was just.
Oh yeah, I have one of his pieces here. I have a sonata for cocktail piano that he wrote. That kind of made the rounds in Hollywood. You know, all the musicians were handed cassettes off to each other, but I have a recording of it here.
Very cool.
It's a jazzy piece.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
But no, thank you for that, Ross. As always, thank you.
You're welcome.
Very cool. So in regards to that, one couple of things I want to we talked about the Star Trek connection. And some comments that came through. I'm actually going to come back as I was.
I do wonder what Jerry Goldsmith would have done with it, since Hyams collaborated with Goldsmith on Outland and Capricorn 1.
Yes,
but maybe it would have been too overpowering. You would have noticed it too much if Goldsmith did it. I don't know.
Well, interesting enough, the movie that we'll be doing next week, Goldsmith did, I believe, if I remember correctly.
He did.
I think he did.
He did, actually.
Yeah.
Leave everybody guessing. Everybody's got to guess what Goldsmith movie we're going to do next week. When we go through the shout outs. This is how we string them along, and at the end you go, psych. Goldsmith didn't score this movie.
No, not this movie, but the movie that we're going to be discussing next week, he did.
Yeah.
One of the things I did want to bring up is, and it broke in the news today, sadly, was the passing of David Soul, and he was 80 years old. Back in the 70s, folks would know him definitely from Starsky and Hutch, playing Hutch, and that show was all over the place. I watched it occasionally. I wasn't very much into a lot of it, but it was something that I would catch here and there. But sadly, he passed. And also there's the Star Trek connection. He was in the episode The Apple. And also, of course, Salem's Lot. We will be discussing The Apple in the near future. And then also, of course, Salem's Lot. We were talking about actually doing Salem's Lot last year. Yeah, and there is with James Mason. So
and the Master. The Master.
That was such a great TV miniseries.
That's another one I haven't seen since it was on the first time.
Wow.
So
yeah.
I'll have to go back.
No, actually, same here. I think I toyed with watching some of it, and then I fell off about it. But definitely, we'll be definitely coming back to that. But anyway, we will be paying our respects to David Soul, and also, one of the other shows that he did that he was a recurring character on was Here Come the Brides, and that was with Robert Brown, Mark Leonard from Star Trek.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he was a recurring character in that, and that was in the 60s, 1968. He was in that.
I believe I mentioned once that he was in a revival of. They made a TV series out of Casablanca. It was in the whole wake of Raiders of the Lost Ark, where you had Tales of the Gold Monkey and Bring Him Back Alive. And they did Casablanca with David Soul, but it didn't last very long. It was more of a drama than an adventure story, it seemed.
Gotcha.
It wasn't pulpy. It wasn't like the other shows were.
No, and I did not realize that. That's kind of cool. We'll definitely have to touch upon that. Somebody also posted, one of the things I didn't talk about is that he was a singer, and Annette had commented on my personal Facebook page indicating, and I forgot about this, he also had sang the hit song "Don't Give Up on Us, Baby" back in the 1970s.
Right.
Totally
forgot.
Yeah.
I can't believe that he was 80. Yowza.
Yeah.
Where did the years go?
I know.
They go somewhere.
They do. And then, well, I
They
was
go to Jupiter. Yeah.
So I want to give a mention to Starlog Magazine. Starlog Magazine was basically our form of the internet back in the day. I'm choking. Excuse me. Excuse me. I got my mouth cut dry.
You're full of stars, Roy.
It's full of stars. Starlog Magazine Tribute issue number 90 discussed this movie, and in fact, I see Chris is commenting, saying he still has that.
Oh yeah! Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
look at the movies on there: Starman, Runaway, Ewok Adventure. Well, we were doing well there for a little bit.
the series.
Ooh, Supergirl. Ouch.
I know. Speaking of Supergirl, what was her name? Helen.
Was it Slater or Helen Stone?
Helen Slater. She just turned 60 years old.
Yeah, I saw that.
And I was like,
I always get her mixed up with. There was another Helen Stone, Helen Slater. I don't know. Helen Slater.
How the heck is Helen Slater turning 60? She's turning
60's not that old.
No, it's not.
Especially when you're 57.
Soon to be 58.
She's in range, Roy.
I don't know. It's just crazy. But anyway,
yeah.
So Starlog number 90, and definitely check it out. Interview with Roy Scheider, which is very cool. And the other thing I want to come back to is we kind of got away from it, but that's the way it was. This film was released on December 7th, 1984, which was really in the time frame of Star Trek: The Motion Picture 5 years earlier, because Star Trek: The Motion Picture came out actually in 1979 on that very date. Now, looking at U.S. #1 song, Out of Touch by Hall & Oates. And ironically enough, I think they are out of touch now. I don't think they're talking. Things are going on with those guys.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Did Oates ever talk?
No, they're in some kind of dispute or something.
I don't think Oates ever talked.
No. Anyway.
It's like Penn and Teller.
Penn and Teller. Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Or Roy and Ross.
Roy. It's true. I do all the talking. Except when I have something to say, then you're doing all the talking.
We're on fire tonight, Ross.
Yeah.
And then the UK #1 song was I Should Have Known Better by Jim Diamond. So there you go.
Yeah.
Interesting, though, in regards to the movies for the month of December in that ranking, Beverly Hills Cop. Look at that. 77 million. 2010, 25 million. City Heat, 24. Dune, 19. And Starman, 12.
See, this is telling, though, because I saw every single one of those movies in the movies. Yeah. Whereas I would never go see 5 movies at the same time now, ever.
I know, right?
It's like I saw every one of those. I'm not saying they were all great, but I went to the movies, I saw everything back then.
I don't even know what's in the movies right now, Ross. That's how sad it is. Oh, and Leslie's saying it was released on her birthday. There you go. Happy belated birthday, Leslie.
Happy birthday.
Yeah. Because today is, a shout out to my aunt Franny. I don't think she's watching, but my aunt's birthday is today, January 5th. And my parents' wedding anniversary is going to be on the 9th, next Tuesday. They're going to be married 59 years. So
wow, next Tuesday, huh?
Yeah, January 9th. And ironically enough, it's my Aunt Franny's and my Uncle John's wedding anniversary the same date. So
a lot to celebrate, yeah.
Yeah.
I did wish Leslie a happy birthday on her birthday.
Did you?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know why. It was on it coincides with another memorable date. I messaged her.
Oh,
I got it covered, Roy.
Okay, you're all over it, Ross.
I was all over it.
Jack saying love Starman. Yeah, Karen Allen and
Jeff Bridges.
Jeff Bridges.
Yeah.
Right. Yep.
John Carpenter directed it.
Wow.
Yeah.
The Hague is saying Beverly Hills Cop 4 coming out soon.
Yeah, man. No new ideas. Are they still working on the new Lethal Weapon movie? I know they were doing it when Richard Donner was still alive, and he was supposed to direct it. But I think that they're going ahead with it.
Don't know. I liked the first one. I liked the second one. Actually, the third was okay, and the fourth one was all right.
Just stop.
I like the first two. The first two I really enjoyed a lot. I thought they were good. But I always liked Renee Russo as an actress, and I think she was in the third one and the fourth one.
And then they brought Joe Pesci in then.
Well, Joe Joe Pesci came in the second one. Okay. Okay. Anyway, folks, we're going to go to the shout outs. And Brendan saying, please stop already. Lots of laughs. Going to go to the shout outs. And then if you have any last minute comments you'd like to make, please post them out. And as I share the screen and try to get there in a reasonable amount of time, I will go rather quickly on these. So quick shout out to our friends Mike and Mary Beth on Sci-Fi Distilled. They are on Wednesday nights at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and they will be back this Wednesday, January 10th, 2024. They have not decided on what they're going to be covering, so stay tuned on their Facebook page, and they will be posting to let you know about it. So again, Mike and Mary Beth, Sci-Fi Distilled. Shout out to my friend Bill Scorado at Country Gate Players, the Country Gate Theater in Belvedere, New Jersey. And if you are in the Harmony, Belvedere, New Jersey area, stay tuned. Country Gate will be announcing their 2024 season. Lots of good stuff coming down the path. You can check out the website, which is www.countrygate.org. And also, Bill has a website, which is www.billscorado.com. So definitely stay tuned for that. Also, Captain Phil was out there earlier. Captain Phil's Planet. Captain Phil broadcast on WUSB 90.1 FM, Stony Brook, New York. The captain's schedule is on Fridays, 9 p.m. to 11:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And you can check out the captain's schedule if you go on to the website. He should be broadcasting within the next 15 minutes. Also want to give a shout out to our friends at Trek Talking, a Star Trek podcast. We thank them for their support of the show. Definitely check them out. You can go to their page on Facebook. Also want to give a shout out to Martha for Studio One Thrift. Studio One Thrift now has a physical location, which I've talked about on the show, as well as an online presence. You can find out information by going to the website, which is www.studioonethrift.com. And you can get quality, stylish, affordable clothing for both men and women. And you can also receive styling tips and informational updates. Also, when you go to the website, be sure to subscribe. And Martha will be doing a live broadcast this Monday, which is January 8th at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. They will be showcasing men's clothing. And also, again, you can purchase online. So definitely check it out. The shows are really good. And Ross, if you can let everybody know what you've got going on.
All right. Well, these are my recorded shows. We know about Picture Perfect on the Lost Chord, at least if you've been following the show since I've been here. Picture Perfect's the movie music show. You got about a half hour left on that. If you run over to KWAX right now, you can stream the last half hour. It's all film noir tonight. So some Miklos Roja playing right now for some of his noir films. Then The Lost Chord is the neglected classical music, unusual and neglected repertoire. That's tomorrow at 7 o'clock Eastern. These have different times on the West Coast because they're actually streaming from Oregon now. And that's some Finnish music this weekend. It's all avian music. It's all music about Finnish birds. Finnish composers writing about birds, but they have a snow connection. So the show's called Snowbirds. But the new show, I've got a new show. This is its third week, and tomorrow morning on KWAX is Sweetness and Light. It's all music of it's calculated to charm and to cheer. It's undemanding music. There's so much going on in the world all the time. This is not ponderous music. It's tuneful music. It'll lighten your spirits. And I was trying to think of what to do, because it was easy the last 2 weeks. It's Christmas, there's New Year's. I can do thematic things. This week I'm saying, well, what the heck am I going to do? And I'm kicking things around. I decided to do a program all about books and reading because I figured out the holidays are done. You can have some me time and just sit down with a book and be introspective. So it's all music that was inspired by different books. So I have music inspired by Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, Don Quixote, Oliver Twist, and these are all just light music classics. So you can enjoy that tomorrow morning at 11 o'clock at the link that Roy has up there on the at the URL there, and I write more about it on my Facebook page. So you can go over to Classic Ross Amico and see what I write there as well. I'll post about Sweetness and Light tomorrow morning. And again, those times are 3 hours off on the West Coast. If you're out west, they air 3 hours earlier than the times indicated, even though it's the same time. You know what I mean? Play with your head.
It's about time, Ross.
you know, 5 o'clock is 8 o'clock. You know, I got a little of that acid left.
There you go.
Yeah.
Thanks, Ross. And I actually shared that in the comment section too, with the URL. So just so you know.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for doing that.
Yeah, of course.
I know I get bogged down in my my promos, especially after I finish my beer.
Thanks. It's all good.
Thank you.
Ross and I will be back next Friday, folks, which is going to be January 12th. We're coming up on the middle of the month already. Not quite, but we're getting close to it. And we will be back on at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we will be covering the 1984 film Runaway, starring Tom Selleck.
And Gene Simmons.
And Gene Simmons also.
And we're not talking about the actress. We're talking about Gene Simmons of Kiss fame.
Yes, exactly. So I always love this movie, but anyway, we'll talk about
music
that.
by Jerry Goldsmith.
Exactly. There's the hook. So yeah, there you go. So looking forward to that. And again, another movie celebrating 40 years. But anyway, Ross, thanks, Dennis. Appreciate it. Fun show. Definitely enjoyed this movie. Probably will rewatch it sometime in the near future. And I'm glad we got to discuss it. And it's funny. I think I enjoyed this movie even more so than when I first saw it, because the anticipation was, when first seeing it, about the whole thing of 2001. How was it going to relate? Was it going to be as deep? And haven't seen it, and we went through everything that we discussed tonight. So definitely thumbs up.
Yeah.
In regards to that.
Yeah, it probably did get better with years. For me. I liked it then, but yeah, it's a pretty good movie.
Yeah, it definitely is. Yeah.
Who was that? Was that The Hague?
That was The Hague. Oh, and by the way, Randy said, I would like to rate Ross's performance tonight as Monday. Yeah, 5 stars. made the mundane cut, Ross. There you go.
Well, I'm a damaged person. I can't help it.
Thanks, Jeff. Appreciate it. You appreciate it. Yeah, folks. Let me see. Thanks.
Monolithic is how I rate it.
Yeah, there you go.
What's it say? I didn't see what it said about the.
Chris wrote, if anyone is interested, come visit the Space Odyssey exhibit on Facebook. Well, there we go. Thanks for sharing, Chris. Appreciate it.
Okay.
Folks, we appreciate you supporting the show. And all I would ask is, if you continue to enjoy the show, definitely share the show on your page. Let other folks know about it that aren't aware of it. And make sure that if you haven't already, just please like the page or follow the page, or do both on the page. And we appreciate that. So, yeah, I mean, we're actually going to be coming up on the 4 years this April. So we'll be going into the show's 5th season, if you can believe that. So we need to get there. We need to get there first. But anyway, with that said, any last words, Ross?
I just want to mention that if you're at all interested, you can look up Arthur C. Clarke on YouTube. I think it's a BBC production where he predicts the future. I linked it on my Facebook page when writing about, when promoting this show. But it's fascinating because, he has a certain level of success predicting our modern world, and then some of the stuff is totally bananas. That's what you get when you predict the future. But it's fun. It's a fun video.
Oh, wow.
A little chilling too in some respects, but.
Well, thank you, Leslie. That's very sweet of you. Yeah. We appreciate that. Thanks, Deborah. Have a good night.
Good night, Deborah. Sleep tight.
And the Higgs's last word. I didn't do it. There you go. Thanks for sharing that link, Chris. And 3 seasons already made it longer than Space 1999. There you go. and yes, Sue, we did talk about David Soul earlier. Weren't you watching, Sue?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we did talk about that. I really wish we didn't have to, but unfortunately, yeah, we did. Well, folks, thank you again for your support, and have a great week. Enjoy your weekend. If you are on the East Coast, please be careful. There's a snowstorm heading this way. They're calling for about maybe 4 to 6 inches, at least in this area of New Jersey. So, yeah, Ross is all excited about it.
It'll rain here, but
Yeah.
I hope we get some decent snow.
Yeah, Ryan's going to be flying tomorrow, so I'm hoping everything's going to be
Where's
okay.
he flying from?
Newark.
He's
going.
No, hopefully it won't be bad there. Hopefully I'll get snowed in. He'll be fine.
No, thanks. Yeah,
but I'm sure it'll just be rain.
Yeah. So yeah, The Hague is saying snow a thing of the past.
Yeah, exactly. No snow here last year. I'll tell you that.
It's no worries, Sue. But yeah, we did cover it, and I hope your neighbor is okay. So anyway, live long and prosper, everyone. Have a great weekend, great week, and we'll see you next Friday. Take care.
Take care.